Hello, people. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. My topic for today is Men of the Bible series, and the case study is Peter. And the story goes like this. Peter's name means rock, and Peter had a brother named Andrew, who was also a disciple and introduced him to Jesus. So Andrew was Peter's brother, and both of them were fishermen, and Peter had this special opportunity to live at the time when Jesus came to earth and see him face to face. So Jesus lived at a time when Jesus came to the world to set people free from sin, and Israel at that time was subject to Rome and chafing under its rule. So Rome was the one taking place after Greece took over, and the Pharisees then were religious conservatives and were known for their piety, while the Sadducees were more liberal and worked with Rome. So the Sadducees, they worked with Caesar, and the Pharisees then were not only took place in the religious sector, but also they're involved in politics then. And the zealots then were against any cooperation with Rome and were terrorists. So they did not want to do anything with Rome, and they were against the Roman government. And Peter was a fisherman and was not educated. Acts chapter 4 verse 13. When they saw the courage of Peter and John, that they were unschooled ordinary men, they were astonished, and they took note that these men had been with Jesus. Yet God called him to be a fisher of men. Matthew chapter 4 verse 19. Come, follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. I'll take you through his weaknesses and his strengths. And his weaknesses are: 1, he was headstrong or speaking before thinking. Peter often spoke before he thought. Peter was one guy that was very talkative person. He would always speak, not thinking about what he would speak. Mark chapter 9 verse 5. Mark chapter 9 verse 5. Peter said to Jesus, Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. Mark chapter 8 verse 32 to 33. He spoke plainly about this, and Peter took aside and began to rebuke him. But when Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. Get behind me, Satan, he said. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns. Weakness number 2, weak in the flesh, though strong with the spirit. Peter had a strong spirit and was committed to Christ, yet at times his flesh took over. So Peter was very dedicated to the spirit, but he was carnal. Mark chapter 14 verse 37 to 42. Then he turned to his disciples and found them sleeping. Simon, he said to Peter, "Are you asleep? Couldn't you watch for 1 hour? Watch and pray, so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is weak, but the flesh is weak." Once more, he went away and prayed the same thing. When he came back, he again found them sleeping, because their eyes were heavy. They did not know what to say to him. Returning the third time, he said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Enough, the hour has come. Look, the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." I'll take you through the strengths of Peter, and one of them is that he's excited. Peter was excited about his relationship with Jesus, with Christ. John chapter 20, verse 1 to 9. Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance. So she came running to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one Jesus loved, and said, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we don't know where they have put him." So Peter and the other disciple started for the tomb. Both were running, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent over and looked in at the strips of linen lying there, but did not go in. Then Simon came along behind him and went straight into the tomb. He saw the strips of linen lying there, as well as the cloth that had been wrapped around Jesus' head. The cloth was still lying in its place, separate from the linen. Finally, the other disciple, who had reached the tomb first, also went inside. He saw and believed. They still did not understand from Scripture that Jesus had to rise from the dead. Strength number 2, committed. Peter may have fallen at times, but he was committed to Christ. Mark chapter 10, verse 28. Then Peter spoke up, "We have left everything to follow you." I put God first. Peter put Jesus first in his life. Acts chapter 5, verse 29. Peter and the other apostles replied, "We must obey God rather than human beings." His final strength is repentant. John chapter 21, verse 15 to 19. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than this?" "Yes, Lord," he said. "You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Again, Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." The third time, he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, "Do you love me?" He said, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs. Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go." Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, "Follow me." I'll take you through the important acts and events in the life of Peter. 1. Calling of Peter. Matthew chapter 4, verse 18 to 22. That one you'll read at your time. Walking on water. Witnessing the transfiguration. Denied Jesus 3 times. Affirmed Jesus 3 times. Preached at Pentecost. Healed the lame man. Stood to the authorities. Instrumental in bringing the gospel to Samaria and to the Gentiles. These are the events and acts which took place in the life of Peter. And Peter later on died as a martyr. He was crucified upside down. Learned something from this video. And if you've been blessed, comment down below. And bye.